This isn't the first time I visited the outstanding Spyderco Military. I did include it in another video of mine previously. However, it was not devoted exclusively to the Spyderco Military model. When I first started the Nutnfancy project, I was kind of thinking I would do two knives in one video, kind of experimenting, kind of figuring out the best way to do it. That didn't really work because I wasn't answering all the questions and giving a detailed overview of the specifications of each blade. So, because I have playlists which are as specific as humanly possible for my subscribers, I need to do a review on the military. That way it can go in its proper playlist so you guys can reference that information if you're thinking about making it a purchase decision for you. What a cool blade this is. It's got a lot of cool features on it. I really like it. Let's get started on the review. First off, POU on this knife, that is philosophy of use, is a full-on tactical blade. That's what I'm going to call the Spyderco Military. Could you use it for everyday carry and utility functions? Yeah, I did today. You can see that tip right there. It's got some oil on. That's actually, I used it to open a brake fluid bottle or container up, and that's why it's kind of discolored there. I'll clean that off later. But yeah, you can use it for that. You bet. However, it, in my opinion, is mostly suited for emergency tactical use. That is, defending your life with it, should you need it. The reason I say that is because, one, it is a fast blade. It's easy to pop out. It's quick. The big old hole there is large enough for even gloved hands to get some purchase on and bring that blade out with great authority, as you just heard. So it's fast. And it's ergonomic. In the hand, you have a large handle, and that is one of the biggest features that I love about the Spyderco Military. Now, on my channel page, when I tell you, I say sometimes my views do change, and they do, when I'm presented with some evidence along those lines. And I will tell you now that I have changed the way I look at larger sized handles. You know, if you were to ask me 4 years ago, I would say this handle's way too big and it's kind of out of proportion to the blade. Well, having used a Spyderco Military like a lot, and also in very cold weather with fleece gloved or otherwise gloved hands, it's a knife that works. Because of that handle, you've got a lot of real estate to get the job done. Whether you're talking defensively, you know, in a forward grip, maybe going to the reverse grip, you've got a lot of room to do that. You're not going to be crowded even with gloved hands. And yeah, in my military job, I often wear gloves, as a lot of you guys, you military members watching this, do as well. Law enforcement guys, my cop friends, you betcha, same. The military's got that great handle. Also, and like I talk about in just about all my tactical folding knife reviews now, you can use it as a non-lethal impact device. You know, reversing it so the blade's against the palm, and you can strike in that manner. And look how much length you have to do that. So it's Kubotan-like in its effectiveness. No, I'm not the martial arts expert out there, but it will work, trust me. Let's talk about that blade now. It's traditional Spyderco shape. No surprises there. Full flat ground. I love that. So awesome. And this one is an S30V steel. Big fan of that S30V steel. Who isn't, right? Great rust resistance, ruggedness, shock ability, and edge retention. And you can put a real nice and fine edge on it as well. The knife comes very sharp, as it should. For its price level, I would expect nothing more. And speaking of price level, I'm looking on, forget exactly, $109 is what I paid for this one, so that's pretty good, fair price. Back to the blade though, nice belly, just like all Spyderco designs have, and adequately ground. I did not have to reprofile this one. In other words, the relief cut comes up far enough on the edge where you can get a really fine edge on it. Love that. Criticism against the design of the Spyderco Military, and you guys, need to ask yourselves if this is might be a factor for you, and that is the tip is going to be a little bit weak. See how fine of a tip that is and how it terminates in that very sharp point. Remember, we can't ask our knives to do everything. They're going to be some pros and some cons. The pros on that sharp tip are it's going to pierce really well. I mean, it's going to have a great stabbing capability should you need to do it. Heaven forbid. And also, if you just need a sharp tip for utility purposes, that will work for you. ultra cool. On the bad side is it's probably going to be delicate. Should you run into a rough material like steel in your cutting task or something hard, rock, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to damage, if not break off that tip. So it warrants to use it carefully. And that's going to be a little bit of a limitation, the delicateness on the tip of Spyderco Military. Paramilitary, probably the same thing. Jimping on that thumb ramp, really nice, and like most Spyderco designs, it has a real aggressive thumb ramp, so should you need to do a thrust attack with it, you will probably not go forward if you have an adequate grip on the knife, because that jimping is really functional, digs into the thumb. You ain't going anywhere, generally speaking. Indentation here so you can lock in the choil area with your index finger, although I like to have my hand a little bit further back like that should I ever have to engage that way. Let's talk more about the handle. A nice thing about it is that it's that beautiful black G10 that is properly textured. Thank you very much. Love that. And man, it's just a nice texture. The most aggressive G10 I've seen is, let me think, it was that Sogtac Pterodactyl, I think. That had some really aggressive and well done G10 as well. I'm getting my light here too so we can take a look inside. Here it is. I'll use Phoenix. Go to max mode here. Sorry for this. Now, if we look on the non-liner lock side, what do you know? No steel liners. Thank you very much. That's why this larger size tactical folder, how you doing, weighs only, I think, 4.4 ounces. Make sure, 4.3 ounces is what it weighs. Now, on the liner lock side, of course, we need that metal on that side. I think that's titanium in there as well. Titanium liner lock. If I'm mistaken, I'll annotate it. And some guys will say, well, that's kind of a weak lock on the Spyderco Military. I've never found that to be the case. I think it's adequate for its intended purpose. Is it going to be as strong as a lockback? No, probably not. But you can see how that locks very solidly with authority. Never seen it to be an issue. Haven't heard it to be an issue ever. I like how that liner, by the way, is jimped really nicely, so you can get a good purchase on that for unactuating the lock. Very nice indeed. Clip is going to be a criticism. I do not like the pivot mounted clip on the Spyderco Military, nor do they give me the option to switch it. And for a knife of this price point, and it's expensive. Anytime you go above $100 in my book, that's an expensive knife. And anytime you should do that, give your user some alternatives. How hard would it have been, to drill and tap this area here? If you need to put a small steel insert over here so we could screw this clip into it, do it. It would only add like 0.1 ounce, if that. Now, understandably, I may have mentioned this on my first video, they would have had to relocate this lanyard hole for that. Maybe that's why they opted not to do it. Because when you move the clip here, then you have a conflict between the clip and the lanyard hole. But you know what? Everything is doable. It just takes a little bit of engineering, a little bit of doing. The clip itself is decent. I mean, I don't have no issues with the clip. I would like it to be a matte black instead of that semi-gloss black. I think that would be more in line with its tactical purpose. That's a minor quibble, though. Attached nicely with those 3 screws, but again, we're just stuck with where it's at. You can't move it even to the opposite side. That sucks. Pillar construction, kind of. No, not really. You got a Zytel spacer back there, but that's necessary probably for the strength of the design. I have no issues with it. It's open enough where you could flush out crud, blood, and guts, whatever you have going that day, out of the handle, no doubt, and it would work nice. Now, should you drop it in salt water and you want to clean it, guess what? You can take it apart using micro torque screws. By the way, some guys say, where do you get those screws? Well, Benchmade has their little blue tool kit you can get for about $8. YourCornerStore.com carries them. KnivesPlus.com carries them, leased as of 2008. Subject to change, and they will have the bit sizes you need to adjust pivot points, which, by the way, you can do on the Spyderco Military, should you need to adjust the tightness of its lockup, or to take the handle apart like so. Speaking of lockup, how does the Spyderco Military do? Guess what? Pretty darn tight. There is just a slight amount of wiggle, side to side, up and down. Just a slight amount of wiggle. I got to keep it real, guys. There is just a little bit. I haven't adjusted this for a while though. I have been using it, so I might need to revisit that. Remember, if you do that pivot screw adjustment, you're going to back it out, degrease the threads, and then very carefully put some blue Loctite on it once you've degreased both sides of it, and then screw it in carefully till you adjust that pivot point to where you want it, where it adjusts or deploys rapidly and yet doesn't slow down the deployment, and yet you get that solid lockup as well. So I might need to work on that just a little bit. Love that full flat grind. And anytime a Spyderco model comes out with a full flat grind, kind of like the new native G10s coming out in full flat, I'm interested. Love it. Yeah, I might try to get one of those natives for review too. Don't bug me though, it's on the list. Trust me. What a cool knife this is. So that's a Spyderco Military. I know I've probably forgot some things about it, but that's a lowdown. If you're a soldier, this would be a great choice of tactical blades. As long as you can, take that tip, which is a little bit delicate. You may want to go with some other designs that have a stronger tip if that's important to you. But if you need to stab some bad guys over there in theater, great backup blade. I wouldn't use it as my primary, but emergency backup, you bet. This thing deploys so quickly, it's as good as an auto in my opinion. There's a good reason the Spyderco Military has a huge fan base, and I'm with it too. That's Nutnfancy's review. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the ratings. I totally need them. Peace. Stay safe and be good to each other.